Okay, I'm not really planning on doing an unboxing video here, but I thought I would show you the kind of bits and bobs that come with this watch. A couple of months ago I got a call from my Seiko dealer here in Doha who said he had a couple of limited edition Seikos. Would I be interested? Of course I was interested. Stupid question. Before I go on too further, my cough's quite bad today, so I'm medicating at the moment with... my cough's quite bad today, and we've got no beer in the house, so that's double kind of bad news. So I'm medicating today with a kind of vodka version of a Tom Collins made with lime juice, which is probably a completely different drink. Is that a gimlet? Excuse me. So he said, yeah, would you be interested in a couple of Seikos? Of course I would. This is the SPB149. Seiko revealed it in the start of 2020, about March time. Along with the trilogy of 55th anniversary watches, and more on those later. So I just thought I'd quickly show you what we got. Never mind the watch. What about the extras? There's the bracelet that it comes with. There's quite a nice rubber strap there in blue that matches the dial of the watch quite nicely. And here we go. This is it. This is the watch. It's really good. It's really nice. It's smaller than you might expect for a modern Seiko diver. It's about 41mm in diameter. It's a limited edition. Sorry, excuse me. Take two. It's a limited edition of about 5,000. Thanks, Seiko. Comes with the newer, I think, 6R35 movement, so it's got about a 70-hour power reserve, which is really quite handy. Lug to lug, it's about 49mm, so not huge. 20mm between the lugs. About 14mm thick, which feels a little bit large until you realise some of that at least is the domed sapphire crystal. You can see the drilled lugs up the sides there. You can see the profile, actually. It's, I'll be honest, it's a really handsome watch. It's small by modern standards, I guess, at 40mm. The watch itself is dominated by a couple of features, and whether or not you like them is going to define whether or not you're going to like the watch, I think. The bezel is really thick. Proportionally, it's very wide for the size of the watch, but it's got this lovely brushed finish to it, rather than just a flat ceramic insert. 120 clicks, unidirectional, of course. The case has some beautiful finishing. It's brushed on the flat surfaces that you can see with this gorgeous polished edge, this bevel, I guess, between the top surfaces and the side surfaces, and again with the polished sides underneath there. The hands, you're going to have to take my word on this, you really are, but the hands are half brushed, half polished, which gives them a lovely way of catching the light, along with the indices which are applied. And you've got your date window at 3, of course, something like that. No chapter ring, so one more way for Seiko not to fuck this up in terms of the alignment of the chapter ring. The finishing on this watch really is very first class. It's as good as anything I've seen on a Seiko outside of a GS Seiko. It's good. The lume could be better. The lume patches. One of the consequences, I guess, of the smaller watch, that 40mm, is that the lume plots on the hands and the dial are a little bit smaller. It's the typical good Seiko lume, but it's perhaps not as bright as you'd hope it to be. This then is the box for the second watch that I've got to show you, and once again it shows just quite how much improved Seiko rubber straps are, or silicon straps, if I'm being honest. When I first started getting into watches 20 years ago, you could find SKX007s on that old Z22 rubber strap, and they were horrible things. It felt like it was made of recycled dildos. Just the worst kind of rubber. Uncomfortable, unyielding. About 4 or 5 years ago, with some of the modern remakes of the old vintage Seikos, they started putting out nicer, softer silicon straps, and they were so much improved. I'm starting with this one here off the strap, and I'm doing this one quite deliberately. This is, let's have a quick look. I wonder if my camera's up for a bit of a zoom action. This is an SLA039, which is a remake of the late 60s high beat 300 meter diver, the 6159, I think. It was launched as a part of a set of 55th anniversary models earlier this year, along with a remake of the earlier 62 mass and the shrouded diver. This is the only one that really spoke to me, and I'm really glad that I got it, because it really is super. If the first watch in this video, the 149, is good, then this is great. Again, as well it should be, given the price of the damn thing. It's got what Seikos called ever brilliant steel, which is some kind of new compound or new witchcraft that they're using to make the steel a bit more corrosion resistant, but it means that the steel has got a slightly whiter touch to it. The other reason I've started with this off the strap is because it's just got this, there you go, look at that sexy little reveal. It's just got this beautiful vintage style monocoque case there, with the brushed back, the polished sides, and the drilled, what do you want to call that, chamfered, beveled lugs. The case for this is just absolutely wonderful. It does mean that the damn thing is really, really high and unsettled on a NATO. Certainly on a NATO with two layers of nylon behind the watch head. Can I use this moment just to make a plea to other watch manufacturers to include drilled lugs on more of their watches, please? I've got this here, another one of those crown and buckle single pass chevrons, which means that it sits not too bad, but you can see what I mean, how it's quite a deep watch. It's something ridiculous like 15 mil thick, nearly 45 mil in diameter, which is, you know, compared to the other one, the 149, it's a bit of a chonker. It really is quite a beefy one. The other main difference in appearance from the between the two watches here is that this is a little bit harder to show perhaps, there's a much greater distance between the dial and the underside of the crystal on the 039 compared to the 149. The 039 has the Grand Seiko movement pretty much, the 8L55, which has got a helpful 55 hours of power resistance. Excuse me. Power reserve, which is less than the 149, but it's the high beat movement, which is nice. And because it's slightly bigger, because the loom plots are slightly bigger, because yada yada yada, the loom on this is absolutely gorgeous. It really does last all night. The dial is this beautiful light blue in colour, which I'm finding it hard, I'm sure, to capture. And there is such a nice finish to the hour plots. It's a kind of really fine ribbed finish. The hands are just polished rather than the two-tone polished and brushed on the smaller watch. And it sits really quite nicely. Hold on a second, I'll leave you staring at a bit of nothing. It sits quite nicely again on my 7.5 inch wrist. I'm used to wearing quite large watches. I'm not a particularly small person, but there you go, lift it up. And you've got a decent size, back there, decent size watch, but you can take my point there about this, the height of the watch away from the wrist. I recently went away for a bit of a staycation for a couple of nights, and wanted to take a Seiko because I knew I'd be surrounded by Chads wearing Rolexes. And of the two, I chose the 039. It's the better watch, but as I think I've said already in this video, it bloody should be, given the fact that it's 3 or 4 times the cost. But hey, there you go. Two interesting, slightly, well, one's rare-ish Seikos. The 39 is a limited edition of 1,100, which at least is approaching the definition of limited edition, rather than the limited edition of 5,000, I think, for the 149, which is approaching the Omega definition of limited edition. Thanks for looking. Last couple of little bits. This is how I've been wearing the 149 for the last, well, month or two, really, I guess, on a single pass 20 mil crown and buckle, what do they call it, chevron, I think, chevron strap. And it's a fairly good match for the colour of the dial. The hands are a real pain to try to pick out any kind of detail. This camera is also not doing its job really in focusing, but you can see that Still quite a bit of reflection off the crystal, despite the AR being on the underside. But it's still a handsome watch on my 7.5-inch wrist.